Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Baruda. I'm with Dignity Washington. I'm also on the Dignity USA election committee. It's now 2 o'clock. We're going to start right on time since we only have an hour. I'm joined by my committee members, Diane Sidorowitz from Dignity Boston and from Darby Desjardins, our new administrator at Dignity USA. I also want to give a great shout out to our dynamic duo from Ohio, Bob Butts and Marie Sweeney on our nominations committee. They have been working tirelessly over the past year, and I still can't believe we have 7 candidates for 4 slots. So Bob and Marie, great job, and this is really exciting for all of us at Dignity. So we have an hour. I'm going to pass over to Ellen and Martine from the board. They'll be our hosts for today. They have a set of questions they're going to ask and after they introduce you all. And then I just want to say, please vote. Electronic votes will be accepted until midnight on the 25th of June, and paper ballots need to be postmarked by June 17th. We sent out the paper ballots early this year just because we figured with the Postal Service slow-ups, we wanted everyone to have their paper ballots in plenty of time. So the paper ballots are running a little bit before the electronic ballots. But then the election committee will pre-certify the election the week after the 27th, and then we'll report that to the board, and then the board will certify the election, and the board secretary will be contacting you with official results. So we're really super excited, and with that, I'm going to pass it over to our wonderful current board members, Martine Whitaker and Ellen Euclid.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Diane, the elections committee, the nominations committee. Thank you all for being here again. My name is Martine Whitaker, use he, him pronouns. I am the vice president of Dignity USA on the board currently, and so very excited to have you all join us for this candidates forum, and I will be helping moderate it with Ellen. Ellen, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Ellen Euclid. I've been on the board a few years now, and I'm part of the nominations committees. So I got to meet all these candidates by phone, and thank you everyone for being here. We're gonna start out with just a prayerful moment. There's a lot going on in the world, a lot of tragedy. We're also thinking more happily of our friends in Chicago who are celebrating the anniversary. And so we just wanted to take a moment for some silent prayer and some good energy into the world as we gather together. So if you want to just put yourself in a prayerful space for a minute here. Creator, we ask that you bless those in Buffalo, all those who are mourning. Look out for all the members who are thinking of loved ones with Irby, and also be with us today as we learn from these candidates, as we celebrate Chicago and all the other moments in our lives. Amen.
Amen. So just also a reminder for everyone, we are recording this. This for future use, so we can post it, and so other people who cannot make it today can also watch this forum for informing their voting. So if you don't want your video on, you can turn off your video if you'd like as well. But hopefully just be aware that we are recording. So let's get started. We'd love for you all, the wonderful 7 candidates, to introduce yourselves. We'll go in a somewhat random order, but give 2 minutes, please, to introduce yourself, share about your Dignity affiliation, who you are, and why you're running for the board or running for re-election. So Peggy Hayes, can you start?
Thanks, Martine and Ellen, and thanks everybody for being here on a Sunday afternoon or a Sunday morning for those of you further west. Running for re-election to the Dignity USA board. It's been a great honor to serve on this board. I learned so much about the needs and the life of our communities individually, as well as our LGBTQI Catholic community by this work. I've been a member of Dignity Boston for about 30 years. This is my third time serving on the Dignity USA board. And what really matters to me in this work is that we continue to create opportunities for people to share their voice as LGBTQI Catholics in their activism. This is an organization that allows people to intertwine both their activism and their spirituality, which I think is very meaningful. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. How about Jason Carson Wilson? Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you. Hello, I'm Reverend Jason Carson Wilson, and I'm a member of Dignity Washington and serve on its board. One of the things that I'm working on at Dignity Washington is working to increase its diversity and inclusion. Like many faith communities, both Catholic and Protestant, it's an aging and predominantly white community. It's operated on the premise that people should know we're welcoming to all. And so my work has included making sure that people know that we're welcoming, because we are, and coordinating the continuation of anti-racism training that was begun by a previous president, I believe by the name of Chris Flo. And so that's the work that I'm continuing to carry on. Doing the work is not only a passion for me because I'm Black and gay. Increasing diversity and inclusion would help secure Dignity Washington's future, as well as doing that for Dignity USA, making sure that everyone is welcome no matter what they look like, is vitally important, especially in a nation where, even as things have changed in our society, even as we can get married, even as we face less discrimination in certain ways, we are still in spaces where all our humanity is not seen. So that is some of the work that I hope to work and goals that I hope to accomplish through working on Dignity USA's board. And I want to make sure that it remains vital and because it is a safe haven. I mean, it's a safe space for people, and so that's one of the things that I hope to accomplish during my time as a Dignity USA board member. And I come to this from a unique vantage point. I have now come to consider myself a Catholic adjacent Protestant because I'm an ordained United Church of Christ minister. And I will describe what brought me to the space. I am a partner of a Dignity Washington member, and I began the journey with Dignity Washington as a space where I could experience new faith, new ways to worship. And that's what Dignity Washington has given me, but it's also given me community. But it's also made me thankful to be in a denomination where I'm more seen and heard. And it inspires me, given that I have had that opportunity, it inspires me to work with Dignity Washington, work with Dignity USA to make sure that LGBTQI Catholics are seen and heard by everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Eddie Pasadore.
Hi, everybody. I'm Eddie Pasadore, and I live in Portland, Oregon. I got introduced by Mike Linden in Seattle, who is a long-standing member up there and then moved to Minnesota. Created some great friends up there. My husband and I met up there. We got married, and then he had to move to Portland, and we suffered a great hole in our heart from that community because I still consider myself very Catholic, but disconnected from family and church. And in the process of moving, we created a nice group of people down in Portland that meet and would go up once in a while to the masses that we'd have in Washington and Seattle. And I realized that there's a big gap on the West Coast. And actually, there's not a lot of voices on the West Coast. So maybe that's not true for parts of California, but my experience in the Pacific Northwest anyway is that we need more voices. I'm 45 years old. I run a real estate company. I'm the treasurer for the largest tenant rights organization in the state. I sit on the Fair Housing Council's JEDI, and I work with the JEDI Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion for the Portland Gay Men's Chorus, which is one of the largest choruses in the world, actually, and very reputable. So I do a lot of board experience, and I was hoping to leverage that experience, that keen insight to money and finance for my business, and the marketing that I've done to grow the business for 29 years now, and do that so that I can have my children, who are 7 years old, twins, able to be Catholics. We go to First Unitarian, but I want them to identify as Catholics, which they can do at First Unitarian. I want them to identify as Catholics. I want them to meet people, and I want to make sure that we are able to move in the areas that are required for them to be proud of the fact that their father, both of their fathers, were born Catholic and gay. And those are two identities I want them to have. And with that, it's been 2 minutes.
I appreciate your promptness timing yourself. Thank you, Eddie.
I'm organized.
Sharon.
Thank you, Martine, and all of the people that have worked on this committee. It is awesome that we have 7 candidates and 4 positions. I've been on the board. I'm running for re-election. I've been on the board now for about 1.5 years, and I am a liaison to the Women of Dignity, which has been a real source of spiritual growth and connection, especially during this pandemic. And when I got on the board, I realized that the pandemic had totally, in a sense, isolated people, and without connection to a larger community. Many of the parishes have mass on Zoom, but there wasn't that personal connection. And on the board, I saw that we need, as a community, to reach out to not only new members that are coming on board and letting them know for sure that they're welcome and that what resources that Dignity USA has, but also to reach out to the people that have forgotten that they needed to renew their membership. So the membership committee was stood up. We now have 13 people on the committee and 4 people that lead. And over the past 6-7 months, we've reached out to way over 100 people. And every month we meet and find out those people who forgot that, oh, I didn't see the letter, or, oh, it just happened to go past my brain, that we then are able to bring many of the people back in, and they remember that they need to renew their membership and what advantages we have. And, you know, to highlight, of course, the conference that's coming up in San Diego. I've been a military spouse for over 50 years, and I think that brings a perspective that is a little bit different than most of the people that are in Dignity, because many have not served in the military. I worked civil service for 24 of those 50 years. I was married to an Army officer originally, and we had 4 children. And then I met the love of my life after I was divorced for 10 years, Frances, who we are married, and she helped me raise the rest of the 4 children. We have 8 grandchildren, and 3 of them are LGBT. And one of them, their parents do not know that, but they confide to us, which is a real gift to us. Being on the board has helped me to understand the larger church community and how they perceive us. And in the parish, I'm a member of Dignity San Antonio. And one of the things that we're doing in the next couple of weeks, the Archbishop is having a breakfast, and the local chapter decided that we should have a table, and that the Archbishop needs to know. The Archbishop knows we exist, but I think he's a little bit negative, or at least he's shown to be neutral whenever they've met with him, the president, the vice president. So we want to show that we are there, and we're going to have this table. And I'm also active in our parish, and my guidance from the parish was, do what you do, but do it quietly. Do not be open. Now, I'm on the Acts Retreat ministry, and I'm part of the core that's the leadership. And everyone on the core knows that I'm married. They all know Francis. People within that retreat ministry have been very open and accepting. And I'll close with a quote from the nun that was running this in the past. One of our LGBT people said, "Sister, I really have trouble with confession. How can I go to confession and confess that I'm gay?" And the nun said, "Do heterosexual people go to confession and confess that they're straight?" And with that, I conclude, God our Father knows who he made. God the Father knows who we are. And we need to stand in the identity that we've been given. And thank you for consideration of voting so that I can stay on the board again.
Thank you, Sharon. All right, Nicole.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Nicole. I'm in Oakland, California. And a little bit about me is, so I have, I'm queer, I'm Catholic. I grew up in Florida, very conservative, traditional Catholic environment. So I've done a lot of work to unlearn my homophobia, to be able to accept myself and to be able to claim myself as Catholic. And part of what that looked like was I moved across the country. I got a master's degree in theology. I felt really passionate about being able to teach it to people in an inclusive way that I wasn't taught when I was growing up, and that I thought that I needed. However, for obvious reasons that you can probably imagine, I decided it was better overall for me to step away for my mental health and get creative. But I still am very passionate about doing more for queer Catholics in general. But I believe I've had a call to religious life since I was 7 years old. It's just evolved in a very unique way. And part of what that's looked like was in 2020, I was chosen for Call to Action's Regeneration cohort. My group and I created an Advent calendar that prioritized BIPOC and LGBTQ reflections. And the freedom that I was given with this project, I think, was a turning point for me, because we didn't have to worry about being part of a diocese. We could let people say whatever they wanted and celebrate being themselves and their own inner wisdom. So after my term ended that year, I and 2 other Call to Action fellows who are also queer decided to continue to collaborate. We co-founded the Sacred Swarm. It's an inclusive spiritual gathering space for queer people. We converse on all kinds of topics. It's evolved a bit more recently, but it started out by incorporating queer and feminine wisdom into the traditional Catholic liturgy. And we've been going for just over a year now, and it's been a really special space. And then this past year, to be able to further support individuals on their spiritual journeys, I became a certified spiritual coach. I'm a birth and labor doula. I just had a baby arrive last night, and an end of life doula. From my trainings, I believe that there's huge potential for us to do more with exploring rituals that honor the human experience and incorporate queer and feminine wisdom. So some examples specifically for the queer community that I'm interested in exploring a little bit more and want to, I guess, bring church to them is offering and coordinating name-changing ceremonies, gender transitioning ceremonies, as well as other events that honor the queer experience as a holy and sacred experience. However, I'm also interested in queering the sacraments so that way LGBTQ people can feel at home in them. Because I can't get married in the Catholic Church anyway, and my partner is culturally Buddhist. I'm currently redesigning a Catholic liturgy for I and my partner's wedding that is very inclusive, incorporates our own wisdom, represents chosen family, and it just represents who we are as a whole. And I'd like to see and help other people with feeling confident and reaching into their own wisdom. When I do work with birth and labor clients, we let go of the image of like what it should look like to have a good birth, because we're given all these images with the media. And I use this comparison of like, oh, these images is like what it means to be a good Catholic. And we have to really trust our own bodies in birth and labor and let the body do what it needs to do. And I think similar to this, it's just allowing people to be okay with trusting the divine within them and around them and supporting them through that. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Two more, Chris and then John. So Chris, please.
Hi, my name is Chris Frunke. I am currently a member of DignityUSA and currently serve on the board of directors. I grew up and currently live in Texas. I live in a suburb of Dallas, and I would like to continue to be on the board to provide a voice to those not living near a chapter. I've come to realize that Dallas-Fort Worth metro is the largest metro in the United States without a chapter close by. And during the pandemic, many chapters and caucuses moved to virtual liturgies, book clubs, and social events. And even Dignity USA had their annual meeting virtually. And I like to see this virtual option continue to be a resource for those members not living near a chapter, or even some of our members that are no longer able to attend regularly gatherings, whether it be for medical issues or for our aging population that are now finding themselves unable to get to an actual gathering. And so I would like to see this, the board of directors and Dignity USA be a resource to highlight some of the virtual options for those members, and so that they're not exiled outside of a community that has a local chapter or caucus. Thank you.
So much, Chris. John Shum.
Hi, everybody. My name is John Shum. I'm a 30-year member of Dignity Boston. I'm one of a few couples in our chapter who met their spouses at Dignity, particularly at the refreshment table following liturgy. Met my husband there. It was one of those being in the right place at the right time kind of grace-filled moments. Over the years, I've been active in Dignity Boston, serving on liturgy committees, pastoral care, spiritual life. I've been on the board. And I'm also one of the chapter's ordained presiders. At the national level, even though I've worked on conference committees over the years, for the past 4 years, together with Patrick Journet, I've been co-facilitating the Aging with Dignity caucus. This caucus has always been meeting virtually, other than when we are in conference, we can meet in person. So for the past 4 years, we've only met once in person, and our meetings have all been virtually, which has been a huge opportunity for me to get to know Dignity across the country from other people from other chapters. And it's been a great forum for us to talk about our needs as we age and the needs of our aging members. And we started off mostly talking about how we can be supportive to each other, how we can problem solve, how we can share resources and so forward. Okay, have you been able to hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. And sharing resources. And just recently now, we've begun to look at advocacy because we have members who are actually stepping in and being family for older members who are going into long-term care living facilities. So it's been, I've come to appreciate the caucuses as kind of modules of activity and creativity that exist within Dignity USA. And I would really like to see them flourish. I was really delighted last week when Bob Butts and members of the Member Services Committee gathered all caucus leaders together for a conference together, because we've never really had a chance to talk together as caucus leaders. And it was a great opportunity. And out of that came a brief conversation with Maddie Marlette from the Unadults Caucus about having an intergenerational caucus of some kind between the Aging with Dignity Caucus and the Unadult Caucus. So that's going to be in the works eventually after the conference. Running for the board, I've been asked to run for the board in the past and I've declined. This time I was asked, and those 4 words that frequently pop into my head when we're facing challenges within our movement popped into my head again, now more than ever. And when I look at the political and church landscape we are currently in, I say now more than ever. Now more than ever is our voice necessary to be out there as the alternative Catholic voice that really is rooted in Catholic social teaching, the respect for the individual, justice, equity, equality, fairness, human dignity, all those issues, which are also gospel issues too. Those are Jesus issues, Jesus values. Now more than ever, we need to continue to be that strong voice out there that speaks to those who are unaffiliated, those who are disaffected, those who have been ostracized, those who have lost jobs, those who are looking for a genuine Catholic understanding that they can embrace for themselves that is really reflective of what we believe in deep in our own hearts. So I think anything I can do to strengthen and to keep the Dignity voice strong in our culture and in our church, I'm committed to doing. I'm also grateful. I'm the last one to present myself, but I've discovered I'm really in the company of some really amazing people who are running for the board. So I think Dignity USA, you have a great future. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And thank you all for introducing yourselves. So we'll jump in. Ellen and I have a couple questions for folks as hosts, moderators, but we also will take questions from you all who are here watching and listening. So if you do have those, feel free to put them in the chat, and we won't have time. We don't have a lot of time for all the questions, but feel free to put them. We can get them if we have time at the end. We will take some time at the end. So Ellen, do you want to ask the first question?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I think we have a lot of unique perspectives coming in with all these candidates. So we have a couple questions prepared. Not all 7 people need to answer each question, or we'll never get through it. So if you have something to say, say that. And also, like Martine said, if people watching, even if the candidates themselves, if you have questions you want to hear from other people, just chat those, put those in the chat, and we will get to as many as possible. We'll spend maybe 10 minutes on prepared questions and then open the floor. So get those in ahead of time. Okay, so a few people referenced, the pandemic and online things and this strange moment that we find ourselves in that's already lasted for years of moments. So recognizing those challenges and the adaptations we made, and looking towards the future of whatever that means, how do we hope Dignity will grow from here, and what can we take from that and continue and move with? So if people want to use, if candidates want to use the raise hand feature, hopefully I'll see you. Okay. There we go. Peggy, you want to start us off?
Sure, and I promise to be brief. I think we learned three things from the pandemic. One is that people are incredibly resilient in our communities and our national organization, that we're committed to hanging in there. You know, getting to 50 was not the goal. We have to get beyond and continue to serve our communities. We were able to adjust in many ways. There's a lot of creativity out there. And the third thing we learned, which is the most meaningful to me and I think matters to Dignity USA, is that people are hungry for what we offer. We have new members at Dignity Boston who walk through our doors for the first time into a virtual space. They have never been inside of our church, yet they are active and committed and energized by what we do. And I think they are in many ways the future of our national organization. Thanks.
Eddie?
Yeah, trying to see it. I just have to leave that hand up for a minute because I don't know how to lower it. But you know, I think it's interesting, right? It's a question of modality, because everyone, not just Dignity, moved to more of a mode of virtual congregation. And in order to do that, we have to bring from that forward some of the things that were detrimental, which also includes the fact that personal touch and community, let's call it house church. Let's go back to our roots. Let's go right back to when Christ was here and we're doing house churches. Well, that was happening in Portland. Was it happening anywhere else? Chris, Frank, I think it was happening where you're at, because we don't have a big chapter here. And I think that, coupled with social media and the marketing tools I employ in my business that made it grow, and the marketing tools that we employed at the beginning of the second biggest gay group in the world, Gay Camping Friends, that I'm ambassador for, I helped to build, I do things for. It went from some 30,000 members during the pandemic to 120 because we know how to market. And this organization needs to get up. This isn't disrespectful. We've done great, but we need to get up. We need to get into the marketing. We need to get into the social media and recognize that the new generation, using the pandemic as a wayfinding tool, looks at social media as a first choice anyway. So for me, I think it's a question of modality. And I think we can get there, but don't lose the personal touch.
Reverend Jason.
Yes, I think one of the values, one of the things that I really have learned from this experience is that Zoom and the new approach has made open the door to more diversity and inclusion, or opportunities for inclusion. So people who aren't able to move about, older people, people living with disabilities, this opens the door in new ways to give a new approach to being more diverse and including more people.
Great point. Okay, I don't think I see any more hands. There's another candidate who wants to say something about this.
John, I see
John?
you.
Oh, there we go. John, thank
you. I couldn't get to the little hand up thing. That's I think the thing that we're very forward looking, and I think that's so important. The flip side of this is we need to not lose track of the people who have been in the organization for many years. And I think that's been my focus. And the folks that have been around for many years are the ones that we're sending out paper ballots to. And we need to not forget that people have been in this organization for almost 50 years. and they're not all adept at some of the more modern things. So we need to not forget both sides of this equation. And I think the membership committee has been outstanding in doing that. And the people that are on the committee have mentioned that how affirming and how wonderful it's been to talk to some of our older members that say, thank you so much for just remembering me.
Good. John?
Thank you for those remarks, Sharon. Really conscious of our older membership, obviously through our aging caucus. And as much as those in my generation sometimes curse the technology, we've also found it to be a godsend. And people have been able to navigate their way through Zoom every 6 weeks to join us for a conversation on aging. And that's also been true in our own chapter too, that we've also appreciated and we come to value the virtual participation. We've done, for instance, social events twice a month, just to help people to get together and enjoy their time together and to laugh a bit. And that's actually been so incredibly sustaining, I think, to our community. I think that COVID has, on some of the smaller chapters, has really taken its toll. I don't think that all chapters are going to survive this period of the end of the pandemic, and that some chapters will wind up dissolving or folding. And I think for that reason, we really need to be conscious of trying to have the vision of a national community, that there will be a lot of members, and we have a lot of members now who aren't affiliated with a chapter or who don't live near a chapter, and to see whatever resources we have at the national level to bring people together and to keep them connected to each other. I think that that's really important. Many of us thrive in our own chapters, but not everybody has that advantage. And we need to see, I think we need to look as broadly as we can at our national membership to see how we can create community, but however it looks at that level.
So continuing on sort of what John's talking about, if others want to chime in, what opportunities do we see the Dignity USA as a national organization? What opportunities do we see, or what major challenges? Some of you have different perspectives and connections to national, but those challenges and opportunities that you would work with on the board. And I know we have, Chris has, go ahead.
Yes, one thing I would like to work on is that, as John has said, some of the smaller chapters may not be able to do a regular Zoom, but you have chapters like the larger chapters like New York, DC, Boston, having the online options that maybe on the national level have a on the list of the web page that shows all the different chapters, have a listing that says this chapter does offer virtual gatherings, and then to reference them to contact that chapter to try to bring in. And this is an opportunity for, as Reverend Jason said, a lot of people come in from diverse areas. There are some people that are a lot more hesitant to step foot into a actual building, but with the virtual, you can get that, dip your toe in, so to speak, and then move on and then progress into it. And also, as John has said, we are a aging population, and it is the times that I've attended the Boston virtual to see the, and I went blank on his name, the individual that cannot attend, that is in a care facility, but is there almost every time I've been there. So I think this is an opportunity that to the national level and the website to reference these places to support some of those that can't or are not able to attend a physical location. Thanks.
Peggy.
Chris, I agree with you. I think we need to really think carefully about what our various populations or audiences need and what we are not yet giving them. I'm old enough to have experienced Dignity as a young person, no longer a young person, but in those early days, it was a little bit dangerous for me socially or at work to come out as a lesbian, but the thing that was completely off the charts dangerous was to come out to anyone who was queer as a Catholic lesbian. That was something that people simply did not understand or accept in any way. The affiliation in their minds with the institutional church just seemed toxic. And I will tell you that has changed dramatically over the years for me. I work at a university. I work with a lot of young queer people. They know I'm out. I'm of course the age of their parents, but when they find out that that I'm an out lesbian Catholic, they're fascinated and they really want to hear about what we do. And I feel like we have an extraordinary opportunity in the fact that that is no longer, at least in the LGBTQI world, as stigmatized as it used to be. That in fact, young people want to know what we are about. And you know, my hope is that for as Dignity USA, we can get to that point where the next time one of us has a conversation with somebody who identifies in the LGBTQI community or as an ally or as a Catholic, we don't ever hear those words again. Gee, Dignity USA, I've never heard of that before. That's the thing that we want to remedy.
Thanks. So there's a question in the chat about Dignity's financial health. And obviously that is a big part of the board work and something that's always on our minds. So I'd love to hear from as many candidates as have thoughts about being forward-looking and securing, continuing the work that the board has been doing and the development has been doing, executive director has been doing to secure Dignity's financial future. Whoever wants to tackle it first. Jason.
Well, I think interestingly, one of the ways that might help is really doing more work to integrate the online presence of each Dignity chapter going forward. And I think finding ways, for example, if each chapter is doing a Zoom, have that on the share that on the website, on the Dignity USA website, for example, that really shows, because I think that really shows the work that we are doing and could really help encourage people to, you know, donate, even if they're not Catholic, but want to support the ministries that we're doing. I think that's one way to do it. I also think another way is, as we look to diversify and include more people, really create the advocacy infrastructure that Marianne has so ably created, and make that bigger so that there are opportunities in which Dignity members can be more engaged, and as they're more engaged in advocacy through Dignity, I think that would encourage additional support that they may give, but also then encouraging people outside of the Dignity community to support Dignity's work in that area, not only for moral support, but also hopefully financially. So I think there are various ways in which we can use diversity and inclusion to enrich the community by making it a bigger family, but then also understanding that that bigger family then creates a bigger, deeper well from which we can draw support. Thank you.
Chris Frank.
Yes, I think one of the things to consider with the financial health is the to think outside the box on the getting funds. The development committee and has done really great work in the past, but I think with some of these candidates that I'm really encouraged to hear their ideas on how to bring new ideas in to not do the same old, same old. I mean, I've always felt that the word that we've always done it this way doesn't work. And I think to maintain a healthy organization, you have to continuously look at different options for your finance.
Thanks. I see Eddie has his hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the best way to answer this question is to look at what Peggy said. I mean, how cool that we have someone like Peggy who's actually employing the vision statement, who's dealing with the strategic plan in a position of authority and power. And when we want to be able to produce that kind of result, do what is in our strategic plan, which is so similar to the works of mercy, when we want to do that, we need something, don't we? We need money. I mean, we need development. There's no way around it. We're having to chop wood and carry water and take care of our spirit and soul because we are living in this vessel, right? And we have to do that for the people around us. So the bottom line here, as far as I can see, and in my candidate statement, I touched a lot on money because that's what I do. I went to Franciscan University to be a priest. Then I decided I would be a youth minister. Then I decided they were too conservative and I didn't want to be a Catholic. Then I left Franciscan University and went to Portland State. And then I ended up being in charge of the board at the Catholic Church locally. So I got back in because I was accepted. It was a welcoming church. Money did that for me. Money at that church, the development money, said we are a welcoming parish. And Archbishop Samples, one of the most conservative archbishops in the entire country in Portland, he didn't say anything because we gave more money at Madeline than any other parish in the entire state of Oregon. And that's what's interesting about this. I hate to talk about money in a spiritual setting, but we do need to chop wood and carry water. So when you're looking at those people who are part of what other people have called an aging population here, I think you have to ask yourselves, what do they want from us? Because they're tired. They spent 50 years, I heard. 50 years. What they want from us is they want our new ideas. They want to know that if they leave us in their endowment, that it's not just putting good money after bad because we're already closing and the writing's on the wall and in 20 years there'll be no Catholics. Well, that's not the case. We need to actually show that aging population that we respect and honor that brought us here today, that their contribution and efforts and time and energy and money was worth it and that we're going to go and do the next thing. So I think that the financials just need a little bit of new vision, a little bit of new eyes. And that's without being on the board yet and seeing what it looks like. I suspect that we could use more money.
Yeah, and Peggy put in the chat, because she's been on the development committee for a while, some of the great work and new ideas we've already been working on. So I think nobody's bringing this up because we haven't been doing the work, but it is always part of the work. So I'm excited for new energy for it too. Nicole.
Hi. So a lot of my circle does not make as much money. So I also want to be a bit conscious of that. But I think one of the things that I've been trying to reframe my mindset as, like, I've spent a lot of time trying to make things more inclusive. I can preach to you like actual church teachings. I can talk about homosexuality in the Bible. I can defend everything and be like, yeah, you belong here. And people are like, great, but like the rest of the church isn't really a thing. So when I talk to like my friends that are transgender, they are literally some of the wisest people I've ever met, where they already know there's a coming home to them once they are able to be fully in their bodies. And so for them, it's like, well, I don't really need other people to tell me what to do or to create something for me. I'm creating my own reality based off of what I know to be true. And so I'm also just curious as to like other ways in which we can bring church to other people in ways that people need. And I wonder if that could be something that could help with funds. I don't know if it would be a lot of funds, but my one example is just like doing stuff that celebrates the queer experience and having those, because especially if people don't have other people to celebrate those kinds of experiences in their lives, it's good to have that support. But also it's bringing service and compassion in a way in which other people don't. So I don't know what other ways that can look like for right now. I've been very stuck on exploring the rituals piece, even creating like blessings for people before they go into labor, creating like living eulogies for people before they pass away, but like finding ways to honor these different human experiences and bring them, rather than like trying to be like, come to me. It's like, I'm gonna, like, what can it look like for me to come to you?
Thanks. I love that. So we, this is great. I mean, I see so much, such a mix of experiences people are bringing to this and angles. I love it. We do have just a few minutes left by my phone here. It looks like maybe 4 minutes more for for questions. I did see some questions that were a little more programmatic about the synod and international, the activism part around legislative judicial issues. I mean, there's so much in the news right now. I don't know. I do want to end on time, but if any of the candidates had a pressing answer or need to talk about some of those programmatic pieces, we could probably do 2 people on that question.
Yeah, anything you want to say, or response?
Yeah,
to
or any
I was
extra,
thinking, yeah.
not just that
Last
question. I
call
guess last
for-
minute, last call. Anybody? Jason.
I will just quickly say that yes, I really co-sign the need for more advocacy in the space that we find ourselves in, and I really believe that it's vital that LGBTQ Catholics find ways to raise their voice. I mean, we already have done that. I mean, Dignity has done that. Mary Ann has done that. I've been thankful to be in spaces together with her in that space, and so I think that is something that we really need to focus on, because we, in as much as Dignity is a faith community that fills our souls and soothes our spirits, those spirits are housed in temples that are being attacked in various ways, and I think that advocacy is one way to protect that temple. Thank you.
John.
Just briefly, in response to Marsha's question about the synod, I know that there have been opportunities for participation in synod discussions and synod input through DignityUSA and through Mary Ann's efforts. And I don't think we should overlook that, the more global dimensions of our mission as well, and our connections to the Global Coalition of Rainbow Catholics, which Mary Ann's continue to represent us on. We need to recognize that the issues we talk about locally can be the same as, or much different than, the issues that our GLBTQ friends are facing across the globe. So that's, I think, an essential part of our mission too, that we should not overlook.
Any other last thoughts from our candidates? Think I see any hands. Okay.
Oh, I see Sharon's raising
Oh,
her hand. Very
Sharon.
I saw one of the comments that we need to counteract some of the efforts locally of churches or whatever. And I think I need to call out the USCCB. We need to keep putting pressure on them that their positions are not in line with the positions that Pope Francis is taking. And the Pope puts out different opinions, especially in the last year, that we are not to be judging people. We are not to be telling people that they're not worthy, and other negative things that have come out of the USCCB. So I think it's imperative that Dignity USA continues to put pressure on them. And from our local level, of course, to keep putting the information in front of our bishops that we do exist and that we are loyal Catholics and that we want to be part of the church, even though sometimes they push back on us.
Thank you, Sharon. Yeah, and Nicole put a nice comment in the chat, sort of summarizing the both and of this, of people who are still within the Catholic Church, out or not, and also bringing the church to other queer folks. So I think that's a beautiful note to wrap up on. And I will remind, I'll let Martine say
Yeah,
a last few words to remind about
Sure.
our dates and stuff.
Yes, thank you. Oh, I also see Eddie's, just want to direct people to Eddie's chat too. We sit on a lot of shoulders of all in our past and our leaders of dignity, and we all are this amazing group of candidates passionate to continue the work of Dignity USA for LGBTQ inclusion and the church and society. So thank you all for being here. Thank you all for your interest. And yeah, it's time to vote if you haven't voted. That's right, Marsha, let us vote.
The church knows.
If you, most people get their ballots online, and if you're a member, in via the email that you get that we have in our system. Several people do get, though, over mail. So get the mail-in ballots postmarked by June 17th. That is a, should I have what day that is? It's a Friday, June 17th, Friday, June 17th. Get in postmarked by if you're mailing it in. Also, chapters have received their ballots as well. You also send them in as soon as possible. And then online voting for those online, the last day to vote is June 25th. So that's a Saturday. So, and when you're voting out of these 7 amazing candidates, you can vote for up to 4. And we really appreciate everyone for being part of this process. Huge thank you to, again, to the elections committee, Daniel and Diane, to all of the candidates, for all of your passion that you bring to this. And we will bid you adieu on this Sunday. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for being here. Register for conference. And I am going to put in the chat the link one more time to see the bios of the candidates, so you can keep everyone organized in your mind as you vote. Vote for 4. We want to get at least 4 spots filled. So that will help us out a lot. So much, everyone.
Take care.